Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Naruto Explain here, bringing you guys another Boruto 2 Blue Vortex discussion. Today, I wanted to talk to you guys about something that I've seen quite a few of you guys in the comment section bringing up, which is the arrival of Mitsuki onto the battlefield of Himawari versus Jura. Now that Kawaki and Delta are on their way there, and Himawari is in danger despite her newly awakened power, the newest chapter of Boruto 2 Blue Vortex, Chapter 11, is going to be coming out on the 20th. And given that the high quality cover has leaked out and the chapter is being promoted on Japanese television currently, we're likely gonna have leaks tomorrow, so keep notifications turned on for that spoiler video as well as the review, which depending on when we get full leaks, it might be out on the day of the official release or the day after. It just depends on how soon I can get the video to the editor who normally works on the 2 Blue Vortex reviews. Also, to those of you guys who watched that big 2.5 hour Boruto video, I thank you much for it, and make sure to share the video if you haven't already. To those of you guys who have not watched the video yet, I strongly recommend watching that video because of how in-depth it goes as well as how highly edited the video itself is. So jumping right into today's topic, while I am pretty intrigued by the possibility of Mitsuki being sent to the battlefield to assist Himawari and Kawaki and Delta in that battle against Jura, I think this is a case of Mitsuki fans. They're getting a little impatient with wanting to see our boys step up to the plate and start doing some damage, but looking at the layout of the story right now, I don't think now is the right moment, just as I didn't think it was the right moment for Mitsuki to show up when Code was invading the village, because this still feels like we are being distracted with all the battling that is going on from a swerve that is coming with Ada's character. And I think that's why we've only seen Mitsuki and Daemon being shown staying behind to stay close to her. I'm getting those same warning bells that I got when I started noticing that Boruto was still not using his karma around chapter 4 of the manga, and it ended up being revealed he was still scared of Momoshiki's power, and Kawaki is written as telling us that Boruto cannot control his karma right now. As we look at the battlefield, it's already really mega crowded. You have Himawari swapping Bijudamas with Jura based on the official promo teaser for the upcoming chapter that the Naruto website released. You got Shikadai and Chocho and what's left remaining of Inojin, the donut boy, right there on the battlefield. You have Kawaki and Delta on the way as well. While I'm not against the idea of characters just jumping on a guy, I don't think you can afford to do so now by adding Mitsuki, because that's too many mouths that are going to be left to feed on a battle this big to give everyone proper screen time. In fact, let's just take the Shikadai and Chocho element out the equations outright all the way, period. Despite what some of the disingenuous takes that we've had from people have had regarding Chocho, while she is strong, she's not strong enough to participate in this battle. People take the panel of her grabbing Jura completely out of context and they start screaming, "Bruh, what is this Boruto power cliffing? The power scaling doesn't make any sense." And then they leave out the fact that Shikadai was literally holding Jura in place with a shadow possession jutsu to restrict his movements briefly, which that's what allowed Chocho to even grab this guy in the first place. Is she can't use the Yang release expansion jutsu to grab a guy who literally cannot move, then she needs to turn in her ninja headband and ask for a lifetime subscription to Weight Watchers and lock herself into a gym until she turns all that blubber into muscle before she gets that headband back. Or that Predator from the anime original arc that Masashi Kishimoto wrote the story for, that Chocho butterfly mode arc where there was an older actor who was trying to smash her. Unless he comes in and tries to finish the job, no Diddy, whichever one comes first, she don't need to be on the battlefield. Throwing Mitsuki into the battle that likely already has 4 combatants and potentially up to 6 combatants right now is going to be a cluster if it's not handled properly. It's not impossible. We've seen that Team 7 versus Boro took place and that was a 4 versus 1 battle. So while it can happen, I don't personally see it, especially given Chocho and Shikadai are there, and one of them is probably going to be dumb enough to try and provide support because they just saw their friend get penetrated in front of them with a thick wooden wood release branch that left them leaking out bodily fluids, which they would be justified if they took that route, which is why I do think Mitsuki stays onto the sideline here. You also have the fact that Mitsuki just had an extended battle with Boruto, while Boruto himself doesn't seem to be using full power, albeit he used more in an effort here than he did against Code, since he was using the flying Raijin more than once, and he was using flight and ninjutsu in a defensive banner. In that fight versus the Code fight that he had, he pretty much one-tapped the guy and had him fighting for his life via the Rasengan Uzuhiko. Granted, it was a Rasengan Uzuhiko, but still, he one-tapped him. However, Mitsuki was using quite a bit of effort in that fight, from the shadow clones to the ninjutsu, the body modification jutsu, using those ethereal chakra snakes to attack. The guy was putting in some serious work in that battle that cannot go unnoticed, and he appeared to be winded when he finished that battle and was still winded by the time he returned to Ada and Daemon. I also don't see the guy going to back up Sarada in that Hidari fight either, just because it's the same issue as before. There are two fodders right there on the battlefield, just like the battlefield with Jura. Those fodder, they came with Konoha, unless Hidari just lops their heads off, which that would be a welcome sight. You have multiple bodies right there on the screen already. Sarada appears poised to be doing the heavy lifting in that battle. Class Rep is likely going to offer some assistance, and it should be worth noting we've never seen her fight in the manga, so we don't know how strong she is. And then you too also have Konoha there, most likely as well. You're likely going to have Boruto go there whenever he's got Kurama Seal back under control, assuming of course he does do so before the fighting starts, or rather before the fighting stops. And Shikamaru is going to be smart enough to order Boruto to stay away from Kawaki for the time being, and likely so too with Kashi and Koji, tell him to do the same thing, even though that is his sister out there. I think it's too many bodies to have thrown onto the screen right now. You also have the assigned duty to have someone stay behind to keep watch on Ada and Daemon. While Shikamaru does appear to have given them a pretty loose leash, there is still a leash intact there. 3 years have passed and they're still being kept outside the village, which that is telling. Mitsuki is literally the only person left from that group that was assigned to keep watch over them. Granted, if Daemon decided he wanted to leave, there is nothing that Mitsuki could do besides politely ask Daemon to reconsider, offer to cut on Baby Shark for Daemon to watch, or Sesame Street, depending on how far in his developmental years Daemon is mentally. But the point still stands, he can't really do anything to stop either of them. That brings me back to that gut feeling I have in regards to Ada's character. There are alarm bells going off, like when Boruto with this Kurama, and like there were way back when she first got the chance to interact with Kawaki. I said it in those chapter reviews that there was something nuclear being set up with Ada and Kawaki, and that this wasn't a simple girls crush on boys scenario, and it felt like that arc was hiding something major beneath the surface, hence I kept saying search the Tsunade arc. Ada not only wants to speak with Boruto, but she is also the target of one of the Shinju. We also have a Ten Tails Claw Grime that was running away from the village when Jura and Hidari enter into Konoha, and based on the background, it appeared to be running in the direction of the house that Ada's tucked away in. And all the attention right now is on the battles that are taking place outside the village in the form of Jura versus Himawari and likely Kawaki and Delta, and then the battle that's taking place inside the village with Sarada fighting Hidari and likely being joined by Konoha and Class Rep and potentially Boruto. This whole situation, this scenario, it reminds me of a couple of quotes, one from the Art of War and one from the 48 Laws of Power. And the Art of War, Sun Tzu states that when you surround an army, you leave an outlet for them to flee. You do not press a desperate enemy too hard. Right now, it feels like that claw grime that is running around the village just beyond the borders is either being used for that very purpose by the narrative to give Hidari and Jura the opportunity to flee by going back to that claw grime and then eventually back to the home base that's in that Ten Tails dimension, or is providing a way to have someone make a beeline for either Bug or Matsuri to target Ada. With the 48 Laws of Power, it reminds me of law number 17, which states to keep others in suspended terror, you cultivate an air of unpredictability. The whole purpose is to throw people off balance when they least expect it. You rattle their nerves with random and unpredictable acts in order to gain the upper hand. Jura, he's already been the victim of the reversal of that law, which warns against rattling the cage at random because it might wake up a beast, which is exactly what Inojin's apparent death did by waking up Himawari's hidden power. But by having the Ten Tails Claw Grime still out there, it's another chess piece on the board that is being moved around, and it feels like it's either being used for escape or it's being used for a potential checkmate that nobody is seeing coming. And the way that the forces in Konoha are being spread thin right now, where their heavy hitters are all over the place in order to counterattack someone as smart as Jura, it leads me to believe that there's something intentional being done that we are missing, that we are overlooking, and that's why we have Mitsuki standing in front of Daemon, one of the few people who we haven't seen a pip from when all this fighting has been taking place, despite the fact that the guy is a noted powerhouse. He is battle crazed, and we have a few lines that were dropped in Boruto, Naruto Next Generations that are easy to overlook and the fandom has overlooked, but these lines were not uttered at random. Ada tells us that despite being one of the cyborgs that Jigen feared, which her powers wouldn't have worked on him, and even charming the inners wouldn't have done anything since none of those inners were close to full power Jigen, she isn't too good at taijutsu. What good is power when you don't like to fight and your taijutsu in terms of your skill is being described as being average? Granted, we don't know what she was using to measure a baseline for average, but the point still stands nevertheless. You don't drop the line, a Daemon has never used his full power before, and then proceed 10 chapters later to have the forces of Konoha no longer be consecrated, but instead they are spread thin with 2 more enemies out there that we haven't seen be placed into play yet we know the chess piece is there. And all Ada has at her side are Daemon and a recovering Mitsuki, potentially Mitsuki being a pawn and Daemon being the knight that protects her as the queen. They are the last real defense of Konoha. If you've been watching Kaiju number 8 or you're familiar with the Kaiju number 8 manga, you know why I say that this feels like something Kaiju number 9 would have done. Which, to see why I say that, you want to click this video essay on the left that breaks down Kaiju number 9's character in a non-spoiler way, so safe for anime only viewers, or you can click here on the right for that 2.5 hour Boruto video, which I strongly recommend checking out.